Hi, my name is Mike Seeberger. We're with the Hancock Creek Colts Corral, and we are so glad to be here tonight. Thanks for having us.
Let's all cheer for our school Mountain you Good evening. It is my pleasure to welcome you to the November 17th, 2015 school board meeting. It is 6 p.m. and this meeting is called to order. Pursuant Florida Statute 1001.371, the superintendent acts as chairman until the organization of the board has been completed. At this time, we would request all electronic devices be turned off or put in the silent mode. Also, we ask that you please refrain from using flash photography except during special presentations portion of the meeting. We would like to take this opportunity to remind members of the public of the district's mission, which is to ensure that each student achieves his or her highest potential, and the district vision to be a world-class school system. Prior to the start of this evening's board meeting, we have been enjoying the music from the Colts Choral from Hancock Creek Elementary under the direction of Mr. Michael Seeberger, musical director. This group has been a tradition at Hancock Creek since the inception of the school in 1993 under the direction of music teacher Miss Cindy Taylor. Today's Colts Choral is still running strong with over 85 students that meet weekly after school to rehearse music and perform locally at Hancock Creek Elementary and throughout Lee County. Their choir is very excited to be performing for us this evening, and at this time, the Colts Choral will perform one more song.
Let's all cheer for our school, Hancock Creek, where we job, guys.
Job.
Good job. Strong voices. They were too cute. I know.
Thank you very much. What a wonderful reminder of why we are here. At this time, we'll take a brief pause to clear the performance area.
Lights are killing me.
Okay, we are back. This evening's student representative is Shayna Greenstein. She's a senior at Ida S. Baker High School, where she has been a member of the marching band for 3 years, served as president of her class for 2 years, and is now currently the president of the entire Student Government Association. Shayna has been a member of the National Honor Society for 3 years, and this year has been elected as president. She has been a member of JROTC for 4 years and now serves as battalion commander, making her the highest rank and in charge of over 350 cadets. Wow. Shayna would like to attend a 4-year university in Atlanta for international business and nonprofit in order to start her own nonprofit ministry to help create and maintain sustainable communities in third world countries. So welcome.
Thank you.
As is the custom of the board, we will begin the meeting with the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance. Mrs. Dozier will lead the invocation, after which Ms. La Riviere will introduce this evening's presentation of colors and then lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Mrs. Dozier.
Please rise. Bow your heads. Dear God, we thank you for the many blessings that you have bestowed upon us. Thank you for all of the families that are represented here this evening. And please take all of those children and their families home safely. We appreciate the opportunity to gather here this evening for this school board meeting. We ask that you please watch over the city of Paris and bring comfort to all the families that were affected by the tragedy that occurred last week. Heal all those that are still struggling with that were victims of the horrible attack that took place. At one point, we hope that there will be peace in the world and you can help to guide to this. Please guide each of us this evening, parents, students, members of the public, board members, and the superintendent, as we speak this evening. Please let each of our presentations and our comments be respectful of others and ensure that our suggestions will benefit our students and our community. We ask that you guide the superintendent as he brings forth his recommendations. Please guide us as a board and give us the wisdom to make the right decisions concerning each of the recommendations that are brought to the table this evening. We pray that this meeting will be successful, productive, and blessed. For this, we give you the glory for all that we will accomplish during this meeting. Amen.
The cadet presenting the national colors tonight will be introduced by Command Sergeant Major, retired Edwin Rodriguez. He served for 34 years in the Army, and he is the Army instructor for the JROTC program at North Fort Myers High School. Command Sergeant Major Rodriguez earned the Defense Superior Service Medal, 3 Bronze Star Medals, and the Legion of Merit. He holds a bachelor's degree from Excelsior College and a master's degree in emergency and disaster management from Trident University.
Thank you. Tonight, the colors are presented by Cadet Colonel Chelsea Kopp from North Fort Myers High School. Cadet Colonel Kopp is the brigade commander for North Fort Myers High School, JROTC. Throughout her 4 years in JROTC, she has achieved many milestones and goals. She has been a member of the Color Guard, Raider, drill teams, marksmanship, academic teams, and each one went to state competition. Chelsea also commands the exhibition drill team and was on the first academic team to qualify for national competition in Lee County. Chelsea has volunteered many hours in the community at the Boston Red Sox Charities, Take Pride in America National Park Cleanup, North Fort Myers High School, and Foundation for Lee County Schools. Chelsea is a member of the National Honor Society and has a 5.32 GPA. She plans on attending the University of Florida to earn a degree in mechanical engineering. Please join me in saying, I pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic
for which it stands,
one nation, under God, indivisible,
with
liberty and justice
for all.
As I stated earlier, according to Florida statutes, I will act as chairman until the organization of the board takes place. Before continuing the meeting, as is tradition, we present a plaque to the outgoing chairman, in this case, Miss Kathleen Morgan, in appreciation for your service for this last year. According to school board policy, the board follows Robert's Rules of Order. I will accept nominations for chairman, after which the board will vote. Then I will accept nominations for vice chairman, followed by the vote. Nominations do not require a second. I will then make a recommendation for the establishment of dates and times for the board's schedule of regular school board meetings. I will now accept nominations for chairman of the board for the coming year. Ms. Dozier.
I'd like to recommend that, or nominate Mr. Stephen Toiber as the chair, please.
Okay.
Second.
Any other nominations? Okay, nominations are now closed. We will take the vote in order of nomination, of which we only have one. So all those in favor of Mr. Toiber serving as chairman for next year indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed?
Aye.
Okay, vote carries 4-1. I will now accept nominations for vice chairman of the board for the coming year. Mr. Toiber?
I'd like to nominate Ms. Mary Fisher.
Okay, any other nominations? Okay. I'll close nominations, so at this time, all those in favor of Mrs. Fisher serving as vice chair to the board indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed indicate the like sign. Okay, motion passes 5-0. Okay, the next item in the organization of the board is to establish dates and times for the schedule of regular school board meetings for the ensuing year. So I recommend board approval of the calendar establishing meeting dates and times for the regular school board meeting for the period of December 2015 through November 2016 as presented. Board members, is there a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
So moved by Mrs. Dozier, second by,
Moved by
okay,
Mary.
Me and second by her.
okay, Mrs. Fisher, moved by Mrs. Fisher, seconded by Mrs. Dozier. Any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, opposed, like sign. Motion passes 5-0. I will now gladly turn the meeting over to the chairman of the board, Mr. Toiber.
Thank you, Dr. Atkins. At this point, we now have the adoption of the agenda has been presented. Do I have a motion to accept do I have any polls from the agenda that was presented today?
I have no polls this evening.
Ms. Dozier?
None.
I have
Ms.
none.
Morgan? Ms. LaRiviere?
None.
And I have none. I'll now take a motion to take the agenda as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mrs. Fisher, seconded by Ms. Dozier. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. At this point, we are now moving to public comment. Martin, would you please read the disclaimer on public comment, please?
School board policy provides the opportunity at this point in the meeting to address the board concerning any matter on this meeting's agenda or any other matter relevant to the operation of the school district. If you completed a card and submitted that to me before the meeting began, you'll be called in the order of the card submitted. If you did not submit a card but still wish to address the school board this evening, the school board chair, Mr. Toiber, will give you an opportunity in a moment to express that desire. The rules concerning public comment are posted at the back of the room. The board does not respond during public comment time to remarks raised by speakers. At the conclusion of public comment time, the school board chair may address concerns raised by speakers or may assign responsibility to the superintendent to do so. Speakers are expected to act in a respectful manner in their comments. Those who fail to do so after being warned by the meeting chair may be required to leave the meeting. Disrespectful attacks on individuals are prohibited. Mr. Toiber, I have 13 cards this evening.
Does that approach the limit as far as the time frame, or
Not until we get to 20.
20? Okay, thank you. Before I start calling on the blue cards, is there anybody in the audience that did not get an opportunity to fill out a blue card but wishes to speak? On the right side, would you please raise your hand? Ms. Quackenbush, anybody else? I'll get to that side. On the left side? Thank you. Anybody else? Okay. Mr. Martin, would you please call the first card?
There were two other hands there, sir.
Did you get Mark and Jimmy?
I've got Chris. Anybody else on this right side?
It was,
I just had Ms. Quackenbush, and then on this side I had,
and Mark Castellano raised his hand, and then so did Jamie
and
Michael.
Mark and Jamie, but I also had Mary.
Right.
It's 4, yes. Mr. Martin, your first card?
First is Mr. Michael Maynor.
Good evening. Thank you for your time to come up and speak before you. Dr. Atkins and the board, we thank you for your consideration regarding the recommendation on your dental insurance. Just to summarize Delta Dental's position, we feel that strongly that the facts show Delta Dental's proposal provides the best plans with the most dentists at the best price and also with the longest guarantees. We have on 5 separate occasions submitted all these details that support this information. We are asking that you choose a competitive pricing model, one that has proven to work with similar groups of your size, and one, more importantly, that provides your employees the choice on where to spend their money for their dental care. We hope that you take these facts into consideration and put them into action, and whatever shall be the outcome, we do appreciate your consideration and your time. Thank you very much.
Next speaker is Mr. Frederick Morgan.
Thank you, Dr. Atkins and school board members, for allowing me to speak. On behalf of the Lee County branch of the NAACP, more than 2 months ago, I presented detailed maps analyzing and asking the school board to analyze those maps and to support redistricting maps for its elections. The school board has heard from individuals and students and organizations over the past 2 months, and public comment on September 22nd and November 3rd, and today has supported the NAACP's maps. But for unknown reasons, this board has been unwilling to evaluate it. So we're asking you, please reconsider to evaluate. The board seems to want to keep the status quo, even though the voters passed by referendum a new system for electing school board members in 2014. The voters said they wanted 5 board members to be elected from single-member districts, and yet countywide system maps for electing those board members remain in place. Why are you disregarding the voters' wish for change? The board should demonstrate bold leadership and decide to act because the NAACP maps brings communities together that should have common say in who makes decisions for them as to the management of the Lee County school system. On another note, the news press reported that one of our school board members said that we should wait and see what the Lee County Charter Review Commission does as it relates to redistricting. I serve on the current Charter Review Commission, and redistricting maps has not been discussed. And the school board does not need to follow the direction of the Lee County Commission. I ask that you reconsider the redistricting maps and be bold leaders, which you are, voted to serve our communities, our parents, and our students. Thank you.
Next speaker is Mr. Paul Barnes.
Thank you, Dr. Atkins and the board. As most of you know, my son was attacked in school about a week and a half ago. He didn't provoke a fight, but he was attacked in 2nd grade at Cape Elementary. In return, my son got punished. This is an eerily familiar theme we have going on here in Lee County. You guys all run for a nonpartisan race. You get up on the board, and we find out you're liberal Democrats. The majority of Lee County is conservative Republicans, like myself. We're fed up. I've got zero tolerance for your zero tolerance policy. It's a human right to defend yourself. My son got punished for defending himself. What sense does that make? If I get attacked in a public place, I can defend myself. Do I go to jail? Nope. Defending myself. Kid last year stopped a kid with a gun. What'd you guys do? Punished him. Makes no sense. You promote bullies in our school system. Each and every one of you are promoting them, you're breeding them. When a kid can't stand up for himself and he knows he's going to get in trouble, you know what happens? All those other kids are going after him. So when the kids get out of school, 12 years, we have a bunch of feminist males and a bunch of women that can't protect themselves. We have the liberal society we live in today, and you guys are promoting it. You're encouraging it. Ms. Fisher, Fox 4 News, if a kid gets attacked, go tell your teacher. Don't fight back. Just tell the kid stop. He'll stop. Not where I came from. I went to this school district. I've been in this district 19 years raising kids, and I got another 11 years to go. 1006.13, Florida statute doesn't state that you should punish a kid to be attacked. NEO does the school board code of conduct, which I have a copy right here. It states that's at the principal's discretion. What kind of principals are we hiring here in Lee County that says, hey, let's punish a kid that protected himself in self-defense? A first-year lawyer could get you out of that case. First year. and you guys are punishing our kids for protecting themselves. Stand up for yourself. Wearing blue shirts to school to stop bullies doesn't work, guys. No more than wearing pink shirts stops breast cancer. Stop with the liberal pacifism. We're tired of it, all of us. Everybody spoke out on Fox 4 News and clearly stated, you guys are wrong. Each and every one of you is wrong. And I pray that Dr. Atkins has the heart to change the zero tolerance policy. I don't have a problem with kids being punished for starting fights or bringing weapons to school, but when a kid stands up for himself and defends himself, you know what? I'm taking my kid to Disneyland.
Next speaker is Dr. Shirley Chapman.
Please.
Thank you for the opportunity to address the board and superintendent. Board member Torba has said experts need to evaluate the NAACP's map. The school board could have given the NAACP's map to experts 2 months ago if it really wanted to get this process started. There is still time if the board wants others to review the map. The county GIS staff are county employees whose job it is to evaluate maps and can provide technical support. Even if an outside expert reviews the NAACP's map, any cost would be marginal to the overall school budget. While I don't know where the board got a $10,000 figure for an expert to review the map, that is less than 0.100% of the district's appropriations for the year. Whether voters are adequately represented in Lee County should be the central question, not the limited cost in passing the NAACP's map. I urge the school board to follow the will of the Lee County voters and pass the NAACP's map by resolution by the end of 2015. This map is in the best interest of Lee County students. Thank you.
Next speaker is Ms. Judy Alves.
Good evening, everybody. And before I conclude my remarks, I want to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving. I represent the League of Women Voters. And as some of you may know, we absolutely support single-member districts, districts that have similar interests, need to have representation, and it is truly an embarrassment that this county has never had any diversity on this board. Now, I understand that there's some concern about what the Charter Commission does or the county commissioners do, but you weren't elected as county commissioners, you were elected as a school board, and we trust you to act as a school board for the children of this county. And I'm actually just begging you, will you please reconsider your decision? You cannot know, from my perspective at least, how holding off, once the voters vote, they expect it to be done. You have a plan that nobody is seriously complaining about. It is a decent plan. You look at it, you've had months to review it, use it. Voters are so sick and tired and become horribly apathetic when you hold off on these types of decisions. You just can't imagine how disrespectful that feels to voters. So I am just begging you, reconsider this. There are no objections to that plan. It does what needs to be done. It's the will of the people. Get it done this year, because if it's not done this year, we all know that the next time redistricting can occur is 2017. That means that the next time it's of any use to this voters is 2018. 3 years is too long. And you know, we've just been through this with the state representatives, and I have to say that debacle should not take place locally. We're hoping you absolutely resist the inertia here. And we really hope you don't catch the Tallahassee virus. Please revisit your decision and implement this plan. Good evening.
Next speaker is Mr. Marvin Getz.
Good evening, board members, Dr. Atkins, Mr. Martin. As you are all well aware, there is a movement across the nation to raise the minimum wage. The discussion appears to be between $12 and $15 per hour. If this legislation comes to pass, I question what will the district do, because our wages for a substitute teacher are below that. Also, the $12 to $15 also includes, in many instances, benefits. Substitutes receive no benefits, no incentives, and no stability of employment. The second issue I bring to your attention is January the 1st, this coming January, the Affordable Care Act kicks in. What will this do to my substitute teachers who are long-term subs that work long-term for emergencies, for maternity? Will they be covered? Will they not? You have to make some sort of decision. Are we going to cover them or not? Because they do work, some of them open ends, they work 6 months already. And finally, I propose that we begin talking about this and working towards a goal so that we have our policy in place. Because without it, we're going to have difficulty getting additional substitute teachers. Thank you.
Speaker is Ms. Tara Jenner.
This week I had a very interesting video presented on my Facebook page, and it showed a lady who walked into a vision center, and they had set it up where everyone that was already in the waiting room, every time a buzzer went off, they stood up, and then they'd sit back down again. And after about 3 beeps, she started standing up and sitting back down again because of the peer pressure involved. By the time the waiting room cleared out and she was in there all by herself, she was standing up and sitting down as the buzzer went off. The next person walked in, not in on the joke. The buzzer went off, she stood up, she sat down. She did this a couple of times, and he asked her, "Why are you doing that?" And she said, "I don't know, everyone was doing it before." And he started doing it. And before long, a whole new crew of people were in there, and they were also standing up and sitting down as the buzzer went off. Not one person thought to ask the individual behind the counter what the purpose was, and not one single person had the fortitude to just say no. When we have a zero tolerance policy in our school, we are teaching our children no less how to follow the bouncing ball, just like this lady in the waiting room. There is, and I'm speaking from somebody who does cognitive training, a multi-step process to create a new neural pathway in the brain. You need increased complexity, altered with increased intensity, over a duration at a certain frequency. If you throw in a dopamine release, happy juice for lack of a better description, it locks that neural pathway in. Conversely, if you actually put a penalty involved, it also locks in not to do the activity. If we teach our students that if they defend themselves, that they will be punished, they will learn this as a lifelong neural pathway process, and they will do that behavior for the rest of their life. This is a very, very detrimental thing we're teaching our students, that they cannot defend themselves in the face of violence. So I ask you to revisit the policy on zero tolerance when it comes to the student who is defending themselves. Thank you very much.
Next speaker is Mr. Charles Daly.
Superintendent Atkins, board members, I'm here out of a tremendous concern. I'm going to refer to the term as inclusion. I was at a meeting several weeks ago, and what has taken place is that our district has implemented a total inclusion plan. Instead of having a progressive inclusion plan, which allows a student to have self-contained classes and gradually moves that student into a total conclusion, which I believe we have cold turkey students into a total inclusion plan. And then you ask the question why the student receives tremendous referrals and then a visit to the AOC. What we have done, we have opened ourselves as a violation of 94-142 as it relates to the least restrictive environment. You've opened yourself up for complaints, grievances, because you have not adequately trained your teachers in terms of professional development when these students have been placed inside of that academic setting. And most important, we have interrupted, we have not done what was best for students. Now, I have had the opportunity to address this with several members, and I'm not going to call names. That's what everybody else does. I don't like it, don't intend to go along with it, but I will tell you that there are schools here that have eliminated the self-contained classroom and have been informed not to. The district has provided them with DRAs, but they have elected not to use those DRAs for the self-contained classroom. This is outlandish. This cannot happen because our students, it's like placing a child on a 100-yard dash and making him run the race, and he only has one leg. And then you wonder, you punish that child because he didn't win the race along with others. This is what we have done to our students. Ms. Dozier, I've been told that you didn't like this from the beginning. But this is what has happened right now. It has come to take place, and there are schools out there right now, and I don't care what they tell you. I've been a principal. I know. What you're doing is you're having IEPs that clearly say one thing, and then you're doing manifestation hearings, which are rubber stamped in order to get the student out to go to ALC. Now, the next thing you need to look at are the kinds of students that are the recipients of those referrals, and look at your ALC. This is a problem. Thank you.
Next speaker is Mr. George Fox.
Thank you, Board. I hope it didn't escape anybody's attention that St. Johns County just passed a half-cent sales tax. Do we all know that? Yes. St. Johns County happens to be one of the most conservative places in the entire state of Florida. Gives you hope here in Lee County, doesn't it? Mr. Torber, congratulations on becoming the chairman, by the way. I hope you're going to do the Finance Committee, too. Look forward to that. All seriousness, though. Really, it gets down to money, what a lot of this stuff does. The lack of money is causing problems. My niece just started teaching at Lehigh Acres Middle School. She's doing a great job out there. It's her first year. And she has got some of the kids that they can't speak English, kids who come from home, they're homeless, basically. Mm-hmm. She's giving them food for the weekend. She's helping them get showers. I mean, she's in it. She is immersed. And this board needs to act. Because the first $500, $600 of their FTE, every one of those poor, unfortunate kids, the first $600 of their FTE goes right to Wall Street or some politically connected investor who's eating up these really yummy certificates of participation that pay high money, no taxes, and eat away at public education while they get rich, basically. So I don't think this board should stand for that. I don't think it's what it exists for. And given the results of St. Johns County, Ms. Dozier, thank you, I appreciate your attention, that, this board needs to act. It needs to go for the half-cent sales tax and get out there and work. And you will get it because it just makes sense. The people in St. John County are very, very smart. They're going to benefit greatly from that. And this board should act immediately and get out there and get busy selling it and go for the half-cent sales tax and the millage to retire the debt. And let's get that Bonita High School built the way it should have been built. Last year, you should have this money already coming in so you could go buy yourself a good piece of land instead of trying to barter land, which is a very poor way of doing business. So That's all I have for tonight, but I'm sure it came as a big shock to you. But I hope everyone has a happy Thanksgiving and Merry Christmas season. Thank you.
Next speaker is Ms. Ramey Hall.
Board members and Dr. Atkins, thank you for allowing me to speak this evening. I know that we've made some great steps when it comes to testing in our schools, but I still think we need to take it one step further. I think a lot of the testing decisions are coming down to team leads, and I think sometimes that's not always working out. I think the team lead wants to keep the high stakes testing, and I think sometimes other teachers don't want to, so I think we need to look at that. Also, some research came out yesterday from Fox News regarding Common Core. I know we do the Florida standards. Some of you are nodding your heads. Kentucky was kind of the pioneer state. They've done Common Core the longest, and I'll just read you a clip from the Fox News article. It says, the results from Kentucky state that Kentucky is further down the Common Core road than any other state, strongly suggest that Common Core has hurt the very students it was supposed to help. And I think here in Lee County, we need to take a very long look at that. I do think we're hurting students here. It's very sad. I have a college education, but I could not do the 4th grade math. I couldn't. I didn't know. We put a question mark on it, and we're going to send it back in tomorrow. Now, I'm not a math whiz, but I think I should be able to do 3rd grade or 4th grade math. When I was in high school at the great Fort Myers High School, the most helpful math class I ever took all 4 years was called business math, and I used that math every day. I'm a real estate agent, and that class was so helpful. I kind of was wondering, is that still offered in high school? Seems to me like we're pushing kids into Algebra 2 and all these maths, and if you want to be a real estate agent, business math is a huge help. Something maybe we need to look at. I would like to bring up the inclusion issue. I think that is a big failure this year in our schools. It's a nightmare from what I've seen in elementary and middle schools. I think we really need to look at that. And then I also want to look at the behavior in our schools. I want to bring to the board's attention that we are having major behavior problems in elementary school. We're seeing it start younger and younger. And that's very concerning in the light of the violence that we've seen around Lee County in the recent weeks and months. I would really like to ask the board to brainstorm on what we can do, because if we can cultivate better behavior in elementary school, perhaps we won't have these problems in middle school and high school. I'm wondering, rather than sending kids home that are misbehaving, can we offer parenting tools? Can we do some retraining? Because I think sometimes we send kids home that are misbehaving. The parents don't know what to do. They've sent them to the schools. You know, I've been teaching a parenting class recently, and people just don't know things that we think that they should when it comes to parenting. I would really like the board to look at that issue. And the last issue I want to bring up is the issue of the free school lunches. It came to my attention this week that while we're offering free lunches to everybody in certain schools.
Thank you, Ms. Hall. Your time's up, ma'am.
Sorry.
Next speaker is Ms. Reese Hall.
Dr. Adkins and the board, thank you for allowing me to address you guys tonight. My name is Reese Hall, and I am here to speak about testing. I attend Cypress Lake Middle, and I'm in 8th grade. It's a fantastic school. I am here tonight to ask you guys to end high-stakes testing in Lee County. It is clear that the Florida state does not have my best interest at heart, and I am asking about our board to stand up for students in Lee County. I have no issues with tests that are well written that my teachers have confidence in, but the current testing situation has taken all control away from my teachers. See, we are the future. We are the ones who, in 5 short years, will be choosing our college majors. If the teaching shortage is this bad now, I'm afraid it'll only grow. Will we be the teachers? During the last presidential debate, Senator Rubio stated that there is a shortage in people choosing vocational training. This is something our county must pay attention to. When the high school graduation requirements include passing a state-written Algebra 2 exam at 30% of our grades, why are we surprised that the enrollment in vocational schools is declining? Part of what makes America great is the ability to do what you want in life. Our school cannot Our goal cannot be to pump out graduates who are all the same. Not everyone wants to attend law school like I do, and that is awesome. We need plumbers, mechanics, and hairdressers. But seriously though, those vocational schools require high school diplomas. You must pass the EOCs to receive a high school diploma. Do you see the problem? I have looked over the results from last year's EOCs, the ones that were out at that, and they are not good. I don't understand how a testing system that is clearly a failure continues. If we want Lee County to be a world-class school system, we must change the system. To tell any student that a test is 30% of their grade, they must pass it to graduate, and then say, we don't really know what's going to be on it, and you're not going to get the results for 8 months, is just crazy. We are repeating the cycle, and we have no confidence in it. Please end the 30% in all high-stakes testing in our district. Let your teachers go back to writing their own final exams, since they are the ones who know what they have taught. With stakes like these lifted off the weight, when these stakes are lifted, the weight off the students and teachers will resonate district-wide. I believe this will make learning more fun and make Lee County a world-class school system like we want it to be.
Next speaker is Ms. Jerry Ware.
Evening to the school board and to Dr. Atkins. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. Congratulations to Mr. Tober. Mr. Tober, you said that there is not enough time to pass a single-member district map by the end of the year. I want you to reflect back. I don't know whether you can, but in the 80s, which is over 35 years ago, I ran for the school board here in Lee County. And Ecclesiastes 3 says, there's a time for all things, and it says verbatim, for everything there's a season and a time for every purpose under the heaven. The purpose is equal justice for all. This board has had the NAAC's map for over 2 months, but it has chosen not to do anything with it. This board made a decision on the permanency of the superintendent's position over a period of weeks, not months. And this board can do the same here for the important decision of how single-member districts should be drawn. No reflection on you, Dr. Atkins, because you know I admire you a lot. This board has the power to have the NAACP maps evaluated and thoroughly discussed before the end of 2015. Last year, this board held 5 different meetings in December to make the board decisions, including 2 special meetings, a briefing meeting, a regular meeting, and a workshop. The NAACP map allows communities of interest to elect candidates of choice to this board. These communities shall not remain separated like they are in the current map, which was drawn for a county-wide election system. When you have an outdated system, it is the students who suffer. This board should hold whatever meetings necessary to fully evaluate the NAACP maps and vote in favor of it by the end of 2015. I implore you, I beg of you, and I pray to God that you will do what is right for justice for all, and reconsider, take the time, and do what is just. Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Next speaker is Ms. Deonshel Lyons.
Good evening, and thank you for everyone on the board for giving me the chance to speak right now. I would first like to introduce myself. I'm Deonshel Lyons. I attend Dunbar High School. I'm also the 2016 senior class president. I would first like to ask the school board, why does no one on the school board look like me? The NAACP has submitted a map that would support diversity on the school board, but the school board has chosen not to consider it, despite receiving it over 2 months ago. It is important for the school board to be a representative of the diverse student population we have in Lee County. I know about the diversity in students that we have in our schools. I see it every day at Dunbar High School. We need a voice on the school board. I'm taught at school to take action and not to procrastinate. Delaying a decision on a new map only hurts students like me that deserve a better system that takes into account communities that have things in common. Thank you.
Mr. Toiber, those are all the cards.
Thank you. Ms. Quackenbush.
Tonight we listened as the little children sang. And what they sang about was trying hard, doing their best in school. And I couldn't help but think about the prayer also that Jeannie Dozier said after that we have to pray to protect them because they need it. They need it from Common Core and high stakes testing. And they can't fight it without our help. 4 of you got elected to fight Common Core. You all pledged against Common Core. And last year, the board supported our bill, HB 1121, to try and get rid of high-stakes testing in Common Core with common sense solutions. But to date, none of you has been out speaking about it, doing anything about it, signing any resolutions about it, working to get rid of it. And today I find on the agenda that we are spending $27.5 million on computers primarily to support Common Core. Well, how are we going to fight it? 500 child experts wrote when Common Core was passed early on in 2010 that they opposed it because it is age inappropriate and damaging to young minds. The types of things we've heard about tonight about behavioral problems, or what they projected, what they predicted, was that if children have troubles with this kind of illogical sequence, they will become behavior problems. Diane Ravitch wrote a Washington Post article about it. And one of the best reasons to eliminate Common Core is that the standards were written in a manner that violates the nationally and internationally recognized process for writing standards. The process by which they were created was so fundamentally flawed that these standards should have no legitimacy. And yet we ignore it. We have resolutions from our local Republican Executive Committee, from the Republican National Committee, from the National Republican Federated Women. We even have resolutions from the Washington State Democratic Party and from the unions against Common Core. It's not a right, left, or center thing. It's bad. Presidential candidates pretty much all oppose Common Core. But the responsibility really lies with each of you. With SB 864, you have the constitutional authority and the responsibility for what our children are learning. If there are roadblocks, that doesn't block you because you are the ones who need to stand on the wall for our children. Reese Hall had it right as well. We've got to stop this high-stakes testing. It absorbs 40% of their time, some would say. We've got to stop it and let them learn. And
Ms. Quackenbush, your time's up.
One more favor. Pronounce your name one more time for me so I can.
Mary Orthodoxu.
Thank you.
Good evening, Board, Dr. Atkins. Everything I've heard here tonight I was going to speak about because I've been out in the community speaking with teachers. They are frustrated. They are angry. This is why we're losing teachers. It's not necessarily their pay. Yes, they, of course, would like more money. They hate this Common Core. They hate this constant testing. Many are going to leave our district. Now, for the children, I do a lot of volunteering in schools. The children are becoming more aggressive because the children are frustrated. They're not catching on to this math because it's really, like, insane. I had a straight-A 4th grader who is now a 5th grader. She doesn't want to get out of bed to go to school in the morning. Hates it. This is not normal for her. She's acting out in class, and she's acting out at home. I sat with her tonight before I came here. The bottom line is she hates what's going on in her schools. Bullying in the schools. Dr. Atkins, this is a major problem. And what you guys have done with everybody gets treated the same, I'm going to tell you, if my granddaughter gets bullied, she was told to kick the living hell out of the kid bullying her, and I will deal with you. You know, I look at you guys and I see the wood and the strings, and I see Tallahassee pulling them. This is all you've been doing. You are constitutionally duty-bound to take action and stop the insanity going on in our schools. The testing, the curriculum. You all have admitted it was abusive. You all have admitted you hated it. You all have admitted you were going to work to get rid of it. But I don't see anything happening. I see the status quo. It's a shame because we look at you as a bunch of liars with no trust in any of you anymore. The ones that I thought were on the up and up, I'm finding out are the dirtiest of all. And it's sad. We need to stop this insanity. We need to take action. You were elected to take action for our children. Not for Tallahassee, not for the bureaucrats, not for the corporations making buku bucks off our kids' backs. It is time to put a stop to it. Be leaders. Show the children you're leaders, and maybe we can educate them to be leaders. Thank you.
Mr. Castellano.
Dr. Atkins, School Board, and Mr. Martin, I am Mark Castellano, President of the Teachers Association of Lee County and a longstanding member of the Insurance Task Force. I have served on the Insurance Task Force for approximately 12 years. Over the years, I've served on at least a dozen RFP subcommittees. Tonight, you have another opportunity to do the right thing, to respect the work of the ITF and those of us who have served on this dental RFP subcommittee with the sole purpose and intent of providing the very best insurance options for our district's employees. Earlier today, you lauded the work and the processes of our procurement department. The RFP process follows those rules very, very carefully. I will close with this. Over the past 5 years, I personally served on 3 RFPs for dental insurance. I have helped develop the proposals we sent out. I have read the submitted proposals, participated in the discussions, listened to the presentations, scored the proposals, and voted on the recommendations that are presented to the Insurance Task Force to in turn be presented to the board. Again, I ask that you respect the long hours and hard work that has gone into the superintendent's recommendation regarding our dental insurance that is before you tonight. Thank you.
Michael, President of Support Personnel Association. I've been on the Insurance Task Force for over 20 years. We volunteer our time, most of us, me not now, but because I'm full-time release. But when the employees work on these RFPs, they're volunteering their time. Your employees that work for you, that work on these RFPs, work very hard to make sure it's a fair process, that we get the best we can. I know there are a few people out there that want Delta Dental back. In fact, one of them was at a board meeting and spoke, and when I spoke to her, she never even had Delta Dental. So I didn't understand that. And if you don't like a voluntary benefit that this school board gives you access to, because it is an employee, it's a voluntary benefit, I pay for it myself. If I don't like the company, I don't buy it. If I want to go to a different company, I can go outside and purchase it. So I sincerely and truly ask you to honor the work of the committee. They've worked very hard on all of these RFPs. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Michaels. That closes our public input. Just a few comments from the board. The first on the NAACP, just so you understand, this issue came about in May of 2014 went on the ballot in November of 2014. So there was plenty of time from November of 2014 for us to be noticed that the districts were to be changed. The district had a presentation in the last week of September of this year requiring us to act in October, November, December, which is a very short time frame with a lot of things that we need to accomplish to be done. So this board, was very respectful of the NAACP and appreciate their intent and supports their intent. In our workshop, we said we were going to do it. However, the issue becomes the two districts that are affected in this NAACP plan are actually District 4 and District 5. They don't come up for re-election until 2018. So if we make the change in 2017 and actually start the process in 2016 where the public can get the proper input, all of the people, all the stakeholders that are involved actually have an opportunity to vet it and not just one interest group, it affects all of Lee County and all of the community. We respect what the NAACP provided to us, but we feel it's important from not only to hear what the county commissioners have to say about their districts and what they're doing. With Ms. Dozier wasn't saying that as far as we were going to follow them, but we wanted to respect their process, and there's plenty of time to do that, and also give everybody the opportunity to give input. So we have put it on the agenda. Ms. Morgan actually made a point to put it on our calendar for the end of this year, of this year's calendar, and we'll respect that to actually have time to start working at this fiscal school year and begin that process. I also would like to refer to Dr. Atkins as far as the wages. Mr. Getz brought up about long-term subs. If you would address that at some point, appreciate that. The inclusion issue, Mr. Daly, I appreciate Mr. Daly coming forward, as well as Ramey Hall talking about our problems with inclusion. This is not new to this board, and Dr. Atkins is well aware of the issues that have caused about this dramatic change. It was very well articulated, Mr. Daly. I appreciate it, especially from the expertise and viewpoint that you bring forward from the time you spend as principals all across our district, so I appreciate that. And so does the board. I really want to give thanks to Ms. Hall and Ms. Lyons. When students come and speak to the board, we really respect that and appreciate that. Your viewpoints to become so passionate, to take the time out of your day to come speak to us, and to do so eloquently. We definitely appreciate your time, and your message is well heard and received. And that's about all I have to address those issues. At this point, I would like to move to first I'd like to, in the consent agenda, we actually approved December 7th through the 11th as National Inclusion School Week, ironically, as the issue is being addressed. It is something that's very near and dear to all the board and the superintendent as far as inclusion and the least confined space. However, we are very cognizant that we also have, we have an entire school population, and we've actually heard from the inclusion parents that the way it was done is not maybe the best, and so we are reviewing what we're doing, but it's definitely nice to observe National Inclusion Week from the 7th to the 11th. At this point, we'll move to the superintendendent's recommendations.
Mr. Turber, I believe you need
I'm sorry?
I believe you need motion action on the consent action items.
No, we actually did that ahead of, we went out of turn. We actually did our consent agenda before we did our public comment, Mr. Martin, and we actually voted
I understood that to be
unanimously.
the adoption of the agenda, but if that was the board's intent, that's fine.
Oh, he interpreted it as it was the adoption of the agenda, the regular agenda. So let's go ahead and just do
Oh, at this point, we didn't, just the adoption of the regular agenda? All right, this time we'll go to the regular consent agenda. Again, I thought we did that already, but for the regular consent agenda, are there any polls? Ms. Fisher?
We just need to vote on it. There's no polls. We just need to vote on it.
We already said we have to.
Is there a motion on the floor? Motion on the floor. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
I believe you need a motion, sir. I don't believe a motion was made with respect to this issue.
We need a motion for the consent agenda.
I move it.
Moved by Ms. La Riviera,
Second.
second by Ms. Fisher. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Now we have the approval of the inclusion week from December 7th to the 11th. Now we'll move on to the superintendent's recommendations. Dr. Atkins, your first recommendation.
First recommendation, I recommend board approval to authorize the board chairman, vice chairman, and superintendent of schools to sign checks on the following School Board of Lee County bank accounts. Service account with SunTrust Bank, accounts payable impressed with SunTrust Bank, payroll impressed with SunTrust Bank, school food service account with SunTrust Bank, tax shelter annuity with Wells Fargo, vending account with SunTrust Bank, UPIC account with SunTrust Bank, and if a new board chairman and or vice chairman of the board are elected, approval to continue using the former chairman's and vice chairman's signatures until a facsimile is received.
Board members, you've heard the recommendation. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Fisher, moved by Ms. Dozier, second by Ms. LaRiviere. Any discussion? I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Dr. Atkins.
And next recommendation, I recommend board approval for the annual financial report for the School District of Lee County for fiscal year ended June 30, 2015, with no cost to the district.
Board members, you heard the recommendation. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Fisher, seconded by Ms. Morgan. Any discussion? Call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Dr. Atkins.
And next recommendation, I recommend board approval of one purchase requisition in the total amount of $631,085 and authorization for issuance of one purchase order described as follows. Purchase order Bard Engineer air conditioning equipment to replace aged and failing equipment in 5 elementary schools.
Board members, you heard the motion. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved by Ms. LaRiviere, seconded by Ms. Dozier, I believe. Oh, Ms. Fisher. By Ms. Fisher. Any discussion? I'd just like to have a quick discussion. Dr. Atkins, I will support this. I'm very appreciative that we're finally getting back to getting ahead of our chillers, our handlers, and our buses. You've already made the purchases to get our buses forward. I appreciate that we get back on track on preventative maintenance rather than reactive. So I'll be supporting this motion.
Thank you.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion carries 5-0.
Next item, I recommend board approval of the estimated annual expenditure of $15,500,000 for the purchase of instructional materials, professional development, testing materials, computer software, textbooks, library books, and additional materials as needed for instruction from the Florida School Book Depository, direct from the publisher, direct from the producer, or authorized dealer representatives for the period of December 6, 2015 through December 5, 2016. Approval authorizes the superintendent to execute all necessary documents.
Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Ms. LaRiviere, second by Mrs. Dozier. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Dr. Atkins.
Next recommendation, I recommend board approval to renew RFP number R1169887JM, Computers and Support Services, awarded to CDW Government LLC and United Data Technologies for a final renewal period of January 10th, 2016 through January 9th, 2017, at the estimated annual expenditure of $12 million, pursuant to the same terms and conditions as previously approved by the board. Approval authorizes the superintendent to execute all related documents.
You heard the motion. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Fisher, seconded by Ms. Morgan. Any discussion? Ms. Dozier.
Yes. Dr. Atkins, could you just talk a little bit about what these computers are going to be used for?
I would be happy to do this. RFP includes student staff desktop computers, all-in-one units, digital design workstations, netbooks, student laptops and Chromebooks, staff administered laptops, and related support services. And as you know, like, for example, the Chromebooks, we had a major Chromebook implementation at the middle school level. That is where literally all of our middle school students have Chromebooks, and that is that type of initiative is going to carry forward into the following school year. I I have heard the assertion that this is for testing, but that you were also talking about students using these for a wide variety of purposes. Research, text materials are located on those computers, and the other thing that I think is interesting about all of it is that, the way of the world today. The Chrome platform, you have Google Docs on that, and Google Documents, Excel sheets, spreadsheets. And our students really collaborate that way, so it's a really good software technology that's free at this point. So if you have these types of devices, so that's what this particular stuff is used for.
Ms. Fisher, and then, were you done, Ms. Dozier?
No. I was also going to say our food and nutritional service is going to be given some of these computers. Exceptional Student Education uses specialized computers, and they will be getting a large purchase of computers from this purchase. And then also various schools and departments
That is
are
correct,
getting these
right.
as well.
Career
So
Tech.
it's not just for testing purposes. Some of them may be used for testing, but that is not what they will all be used for, and that's, I think, important to say.
Ms. Fisher?
Yeah, and that was really what I was going to say, because I asked the question ahead of time when I first read the agenda. And this response really helped me. The district provides computer equipment as a normal course of business, and we have been for years. While some of the state's initiative require higher computer density than would have naturally evolved over the years, and we certainly do use these computers for state-mandated testing and digital content transition, it is not accurate to say that this is primarily due to these mandates. Even if we did not have mandatory online testing and the digital content transition, the district would still utilize a large number of computers. That's a sign of the times. So some of the eventual expenditures are necessary to meet state mandates that unfortunately, again, did not come with substantial funding, but it is not accurate to say that we would not be expending this money on computers if we didn't have those expenditures. So.
Thank you, Ms. Fisher. Ms. LaRiviere?
I was just going to say exactly the same thing. These are necessary expenditures, especially when you look at what we do have to take care of for our students in the ESE program. So I am totally in support of this, and I don't see that this is just for one purpose.
And which it also includes over $1 million for our career tech, for career tech programs as well. So that's a whole lot. I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Dr. Atkins.
Okay, next item, I recommend board approval for the one-time increase of $400,000 and to extend by 90 days bid number B127082SM for installation of air conditioning, mini-split, and split systems awarded to B&I Contractors, Inc., Country Cooling and Heating, Inc., and Winco, Inc. The resulting contract term will be from January 22nd, 2016 through April 21st, 2016 for a total estimated expenditure of $530,000 pursuant to the same terms and conditions as previously approved by the board. Approval authorizes the superintendent to execute all related documents.
Board members, you heard the motion. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
By Ms. Dozier, seconded by Ms. Fisher. Any discussion? Ms. Fisher?
Yeah, I just have one comment that I know that the replacements on these equipments will happen over winter break, and I think that in the long run, this expenditure is going to save us money because we'll have more efficient machines installed.
I'll call for a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Dr. Atkins.
Okay, next item, I recommend board approval of the estimated annual expenditure of $500,000 for RFP number R137144BC for heating, ventilation, and air conditioning HVAC repair services awarded to B&I Contractors, Inc. and Page Mechanical Group, Inc. as primary vendors, and Air Mechanical and Service Corporation as secondary vendor for the period of January 28, 2016 through January 27, 2017. Approval authorizes the superintendent to execute all documents.
Board members, you heard the motion. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
By Ms. Fisher, seconded by Ms. Dozier. Any discussion? Call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Dr. Atkins, your last one.
Next recommendation, I recommend board approval to award RFP number R157222TA for group dental insurance to Metropolitan Life Insurance Company, MetLife, as indicated on the attached tabulation sheet. This contract will be effective for a 4-year period beginning April 1st, 2016 through March 31st, 2020, with renewal options for 2 additional 2-year periods upon written agreement of the vendor and the district at no cost to the district. Approval authorizes the superintendent to execute all related documents.
Board members, you heard the motion. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Ms. LaRivera, second by Ms. Dozier. Any discussion? Ms. Dozier.
Well, you know, there's been a lot of talk about the dental insurance, and I do have a very high regard and a high respect for the work of the Insurance Task Force Committee. I also have a very high regard and a very high respect for our employees in this district. And I'm not sure that this is, you know, I've heard a lot of stuff about the insurance backwards and forwards, and I appreciate the fact that the procurement department has brought forth a recommendation to us, and the superintendent, he and I have had long, hard discussions about this, and I mean hard discussions about this. And I told him where I was coming from. I made a pledge to a group of people that we had Delta Dental. They wanted Delta Dental back. They felt like it was a good product. We didn't have any complaints, and I encouraged you to go with multiple vendors, but I understand that the department didn't want to do that as a result of, they said they would have to go back out for an RFP because initially the RFP said it was for a single vendor and not multiple vendors, and their prices may have been different. So I regret that I will not be able to support this recommendation because I feel as though we could have been a little more flexible. Therefore, I will be voting against this evening.
Ms. Fisher? No?
Well, I feel the same way. I was hoping that we would have multiple vendors as a choice because of the number of people who voice their opinion. And it is our employees who are footing the bill, so.
It doesn't cost us anything.
Right.
Dr. Atkins, did you?
I want to just make a clarification. The RFP itself did not exclude multiple vendors, but with the proposals that were put forth, like for example, Delta Dental's proposal states that Delta Dental, are assuming to be the sole provider for services with these rates and services that they are providing as a quote. The same with MetLife. MetLife, if there's a change in terms of the population of more than 10%, as if you split it, there most likely would be more of a change in the population served of more than 10%. They would have a right to come back and redo the rate. So while the RFP could allow that, we're trying to get the best rate for employees, and if you split this right now and allow really 3 vendors to bid on this, then those rates we wouldn't hold to the rates that we received. Now in the future, the advice that we would give would be just to go right out and say we're going to go out for multiple vendors, and that's what this board can direct us to do moving forward. But at this time, the recommendation remains with one, for the reason that we feel that with the one vendor, because that's what they bid on when they came in. As a service provider, I'm bidding on this thinking that I'm going to be the sole recipient.
Ms. Fisher?
And I was just going to say, and however, it is a 4-year contract, so that would be 2020 before we would have that opportunity again.
In 8 years?
In 4 years.
No, it's renewal on with the renewal of 2 optional 2-year periods.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
That's optional,
yeah,
so.
right. So we'd have to write. Ms. LaRivera?
Serving on being able to go in and sit on the insurance task force meetings, I did take my own personal time to do my own research at looking at everything that was offered, and the recommendation from the insurance task force. we as a board may have done a disservice by not giving the directive that we wanted to give options. That directive was never given. When the RFPs were sent out, they were sent out with the option of it being a single vendor. The prices that we received from both of them, those prices would change dramatically, as well as the cost. The costs would automatically then go up. I am 100% in support of it, because when I did comparing all of the different pieces, the one that came out on top, in my opinion, and looking at everything, was the MetLife. And it's the one that I felt more comfortable with. So whatever insurance company we decide to go with, there are always going to be people who are very happy, and there are always going to be people who are very unhappy. There is not going to be a perfect scenario, because each case is different. So I am personally 100% behind the recommendation, and I will be supporting it.
My only concern, and Ms. Fisher, maybe I just answer a little more, but it seems like the decision is based upon the fact that we didn't go out with a proper directive. Well, before we vote in and lock in somebody we've never tried before for 4 years, do you want them to go out and do that for multiple and give that option? I don't know. I didn't speak to a whole lot of people. I wasn't so deep into this, but I know you and Ms. Dozier were. So before I call for the vote, I want to make sure that that's not an option that you wanted to explore.
Well, when we postponed to a time certain, it was my understanding, and I may be mistaken, that was what we were doing. We were going to look at it again at the other, at all bidders, to see if it was possible to offer a choice to the people who are paying for this out of their pockets.
So having said that, I think that we did do that. We did look at what would this look like if we were to go back and look at multiple vendors. And just read you this, Delta Dental included the following statement in their RFP response within the underwriting assumptions for the dental rates. Single dental carrier. It is assumed that Delta Dental is to be the only dental carrier, and that all primary enrollees and their dependent enrollees will be covered under our plan. MetLife had similar language. So what that means is, with either one, if this is the assumption that we're going by when we give you this rate. So if that assumption no longer holds true, we can come back and renegotiate rates. So those low rates that we got were on the assumption that you would get all of the business. Right. And so we felt, knowing that we needed to proceed with our original recommendation.
Okay. Ms. Fisher, anything final?
No, thank you.
Anybody else? I'll call Ms. Dozier.
Well, and as Ms. Fisher said, we are talking about a contract for April 1st, 2016 through March 31st, 2020. And as we do increase in size, we increase, opportunities for us to give additional opportunities for our employees. And large districts across the state do offer multiple multiple vendors. And it doesn't cost the district a dime. It is, the employees that are actually paying for this. So, I hate for us to lock ourselves in for a period of 4 years. I hate for us not to try to spread the wealth, so to speak, and offer the opportunity for multiple vendors, because we did have a good relationship with Delta Dental. And I sat here at this board and I listened to a lot of employees for several years talk about Delta Dental. And we gave direction that we were going to go out for an RFP. This went on for 4 years. And now here we are, we've got an RFP, and it's everybody thought that we would have Delta Dental again. All of our employees did. We don't have Delta Dental. And because I did step out there and make a commitment to these employees that, I would fight to get, Delta Dental back, because their network was so large and they had so many, dentists within their network, and the product that they offered was a good product. The employees were pleased with it. And I don't know if you had the opportunity to read the comments where people were our employees were actually questioned and surveyed about the previous insurance, there was, I mean, almost every comment was something negative. You know, you had to really look through all that very fine print to find anything positive. And, you know, you had a company that there were nothing but positive, comments about. And, you know, I just wanted to give the opportunity for employees to have that opportunity again. And that's why I can't support this single recommendation. I have nothing against MetLife. I don't know MetLife, but I made a commitment to our employees, and that's where I am, and I'm standing
Dr.
on that
Atkins.
ground.
One of the things that you know, we do need to keep in mind is in any contract that we do have a termination clause if we're not satisfied. We have that in this particular case. So, you know, had we, you know, I've been to this party a little earlier and that was the direction of the board, we may have a different outcome. But, you know, what I have to do is give you the best recommendation for right now in time. And right now, if you pull out of this recommendation, if you're MetLife, you're going to probably pursue a legal recourse. I've been a part of that with Delta and Humana. That's never fun. I wouldn't recommend that. But I would also say that yes, there is a 4-year contract here, but we also have, as we put into a lot of these contracts, a termination clause. And so we can pursue other options. There were a number of things that came up that particular board meeting, doing an RFP with multiple vendors came up. The thought about a private exchange, like some of the other school districts do, that also came up. But to do a private exchange, as I mentioned earlier, I felt that it would behoove us to do a lot more research in that before we go down that particular pathway. Typically, those involve medical and dental and a host of other things. You know, it's that kind of that cafeteria style of insurance, and I think before we dive into that, it's relatively new in Florida with school entities. I think we need to do our research. So, again, what I'm doing is giving you what I think is our best recommendation today. But I've never been opposed to exploring better options, and I will make it my goal to get to a point where dental insurance is not an issue at this board again.
Thank you. Anything more, board members? Well, Ms. LaRiviere and I came in halfway through the party, and I'll have to defer to Ms. LaRiviere's time on the insurance task force, so I'll be supporting this. So, like you said, it's something that's been festering for a long time, so we need to put it to bed. I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries 4-1 with Ms. Dozier dissenting.
3-2.
Oh, 3-2.
Sure.
That being the end of the superintendent's recommendations, we now go to public hearing. Mr. Martin.
First, I believe that you want to receive the recommendations with respect to these items.
Dr. Atkins, would you please read the recommendations for the public hearing?
Okay, next recommendation, I recommend board approval of the adoption of policy 9.10, school names to establish standards for names assigned to schools. The effective date of this revision shall be Wednesday, November 18th, 2015. Next recommendation, I recommend board approval of the adoption of 9.11, naming rights for the school district facilities to codify the current practice of honorific facility names and to create a new process for expanding into a new practice of sponsored names. The effective date of this revision shall be Wednesday, November 18th, 2015. Next recommendation, I recommend board approval of the revision to the plan for student assignment, including restructuring of the content of the plan as well as the addition of relevant information to make the document easier to read and comprehend. These revisions apply to school assignments for the 2016-17 school year. The effective date of this revision shall be Wednesday, November 18, 2015. Last recommendation, I recommend board approval of the revisions to 2015-16 Parent Guide and Code of Conduct for students, parents, or grades pre-K to 5, and 2015 Parent Guide and Code of Conduct for students grades 6 through 12 to incorporate the testing schedule into the parent guide as required by law. The effective date of this revision shall be Wednesday, November 18, 2015.
Thank you, Dr. Atkins. We will now recess the regular school board meeting and open up the public hearing. As indicated, the public hearing is here to consider adoption of policy 9.10, school names, adoption of policy 9.11, naming of rights for schools, district facilities, the approval or revision of the plans for student assignment, and the approval of the revision of the 2015-16 parent guide and code of conduct students grades pre-K to 5 and 2015-16 parent guide and code of conduct for grades 6 to 12. At this time, the public will be invited to speak to these 4 items. The time for comments will be 3 minutes. Is there anyone on the right side that would like to speak to any of these 4? Anyone to the left? Seeing nobody, I will now close public hearing and reconvene the regular school board meeting of November 17th, 2015. Dr. Atkins, would you please restate your recommendation for this evening's vote?
Okay, the first recommendation is I recommend board approval of the adoption of policy 9.10, school names to establish standards for names assigned to schools. The effective date of this revision shall be Wednesday, November 18th, 2015.
Board, you've heard the recommendation of the superintendent. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Ms. LaRiviere, second by Ms. Dozier. Any comments? Ms. LaRiviere.
Just one point that evidently I am looking at information that had been brought out in the media. There is a point of clarification that I will hope all people in the public are aware, is that the naming rights for a school has nothing to do with a donation or monies. And that had been, that information was not relayed correctly through media sources. So I want to make sure public who is watching and so on understands that this has to do with a policy of how we show respect for someone who might be deceased, or other ways than how we go about choosing or selecting our names for the schools, and for this not to be confused with the facilities.
So you're talking about school names, not naming rights?
Correct.
Right, okay.
9.10. Call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Dr. Atkins.
Next, I recommend board approval of the adoption of 9.11, naming rights for school district facilities to codify the current practice of honorific facility names and to create a new process for expanding into a new practice of sponsored names. The effective date of this revision shall be Wednesday, November 18th, 2015.
Board members, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Fisher, seconded by Ms. LaRiviere. Any discussion? Ms. Morgan.
Dr. Atkins, when we had this presented at a briefing, there was a lot of discussion about the revenue section, distribution of generated naming rights revenue. I see there's been no change. So is I thought that there was going to be, Mr. Mora?
Good evening, board members. Dr. Atkins. Thank you, Ms. Morgan, for pointing that out. We did make an edit in that particular section. We updated it to read that it would be negotiated on a one-to-one case-by-case basis is what we actually rewrote that. We had originally put a 50-50 split of revenue, but the updated version should read.
Yeah, it reads that.
Where does it read?
It's in the wrong location.
It's not, the one we have in G has not been updated.
It's at 191 in H.
At 190,
Yeah. I have physical display of naming rights.
if you look up under G, where it starts at 185, distribution of generated naming rights revenue, it says all net compensation received by the district pursuant to this policy shall be distributed as follows: 50% to the school where such naming rights are granted, and 50% to the district's general fund.
I apologize you got that version, but I do know that it's been updated, and we did submit that updated document to read on a case-by-case basis as we shared at the last briefing.
I knew that you were going to address it, but it's the part that, the one that we have in front of us doesn't have that, so.
Right.
Mr. Martin?
The board has the option of making a motion to amend at this point, but it's a bit confusing at this point, and the draft, the proposed policy that was advertised for community review, for the public review and opportunity for comment, is the language that you see before you.
Board members, do I have a motion? Ms. Dozier?
Well, it does say case by case down here under I, the duration of naming rights, but evidently.
No, that's
and
just the physical display.
I know that, but I believe there was an intent to change that, because I was told that there was going to be an intent to change it, but it does clearly here say 50-50. So were y'all going to change it to 60-40?
No, ma'am. Actually, we changed it so that it be negotiated on a case-by-case basis. I think Dr. Atkins provided some examples of where it might be different than a 60-40 or 50-50 in the case we're building a new facility. And also the fact that we amended it to include ancillary facilities where there wouldn't be a split between a department or an ancillary facility in the district. But the intent was to make it a case-by-case basis, and I'm not sure what happened in the process of providing you the updated document. I know that we have a document ready to go to be posted where it actually reads case-by-case basis, so my apologies for that.
Mr. Martin, if we don't have the language that they were going to present to us this evening. So if we table this particular item, it'll have to go back through the reiteration of 12 weeks or 6 weeks or whatever, how long
At this
it
point,
takes.
I would recommend that the board not take action, that we go through the process for adoption of a rule again,
Did we just
to
table
avoid the
it?
confusion.
No, you don't want to table it because it's
Because
we'd have to
I think-
reject it and then.
We will reject it.
My suggestion would be withdraw the motion, allow the superintendent withdraw his recommendation if he's willing to do so.
Right.
Dr.
I don't want
Atkins?
to kill it.
That's first you
That
need to have
looks
the
like
motion withdrawn, sir.
superintendent's making bad recommendations.
Yes, I will go ahead and withdraw this recommendation. We'll bring it back, and again, I apologize for our misstep in the process.
Thank you, Ms. Morgan, for catching it. Dr. Atkins, your next, I'm
Ms.
sorry.
Fisher would need to withdraw her motion to approve.
Oh, Ms.
I withdraw the motion.
Thank you.
Draw the second or however it is.
Thank you. Dr. Atkins, your next motion.
Okay. I recommend board approval of the revisions to the plan for student assignment, including restructuring of the content of the plan, as well as the addition of relevant information to make the document easier to read and comprehend. The revisions apply to school assignment for the 2016-2017 school year. The effective date of this revision shall be Wednesday, November 18th, 2015.
Board members, you've heard the superintendent's recommendation. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Morgan, seconded by Ms. LaRiviere. Any comments, discussion? Ms. Fisher?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that during the time of briefing, I really appreciated the presentation because it gave us a clear understanding of what the intention was. So I want to thank Mark and Dr. Atkins for that,
Anybody else?
all of staff.
I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. That concludes the public hearing and recommendations by the superintendent.
One more, I think.
One more.
More
more?
D. To do D.
Last item is I recommend board approval of the revisions to the 2015-16 Parent Guide and Code of Conduct for Students, grades pre-K to 5, and the 2015-16 Parent Guide and Code of Conduct for Students, grades 6 through 12, to incorporate the testing schedule into the Parent Guide as required by law. The effective date of this revision shall be Wednesday, November 18, 2015.
Board members, you've heard the superintendent's recommendation on the code of conduct. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Dozier, second by Ms. Fisher. Any discussion? Call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. I believe that's the end. All right, we'll get through this. We'll now move on to board member comments and reports. We'll start with you, Ms. Fisher.
Thank you, Mr. Toiber. First of all, I'd like to thank Mrs. Morgan for her leadership as chairman. She kept us focused. She had a great attention to details. And I think that our workshops and briefings were organized in a way that really were productive and gave us a lot of efficiency. So I want to thank you for your service. I learned a lot from you. Thank you.
That's it?
And, no, I'm sorry. Okay. Then I wanted to just go back and question again. I know you addressed the NAACP map situation and explained a way that it would not be, it wouldn't have an impact on school board votes until the 18 voting year anyway. And I know that Mr. Martin had given us an opportunity to look at the time frame. So I want everyone to know that we are looking at that and paying attention to it and definitely believe in equality for all. I think with the inclusion situation, I'm hearing a lot of talk about that, and I think probably some of the comments tonight really addressed the fact that I never worked in a school that didn't have inclusion, but not everyone was included.
Thanks.
So I think that the rollout and the training for the teachers and the support that's offered really needs to be continued to look at, because I don't think that everyone has interpreted it the way it was meant to be. And the real world is that everyone's included. And so I want for kids in our schools to have opportunities, but I also want them to have their needs met. So I'm hoping that we can continue to have that conversation, and thank you for that. And I think that I'm hoping that as we move forward, we will talk some more about looking at the movement towards educating the community and working with them on bringing the sales tax to referendum. And I want to thank staff and all of our stakeholders for their comments and their support. And with that, I say good evening.
Thank you, Ms. Fisher. Ms. Dozier.
Thank you. I would also like to express my appreciation to Ms. Morgan for the focus that she has maintained during the past year. And I would also like to thank her for being insistent, and I don't use that word lightly, that we kind of beef up protocols, beef up, how we run things, how we do things. And I think now we have a good set of protocols, and it does actually set up for a succession for the way we do business. It also, dictates or gives suggestions of how we will work as a board, so I certainly appreciate that. I want to congratulate Mr. Toiber on being selected as chair and Mrs. Fisher as vice chair. I look forward to your leadership during the next year, and I look forward to working with the two of you and offering any support that I can. I want to thank the Hancock Creek Elementary students. What a great group of students, and how cute they were. I want to, Shana, welcome to the table. We are glad that you're here, and I look forward to any comments that you may have. I want to speak to, there were several comments made about the voters and the will of the voters, and it says we need to quit playing around and we need to follow the will of the voters. We are following the will of the voters. Several people made comments tonight that we are not following the will of the voters. The will of the voters, it was very clear. The language stated that we would have 7-member districts. We would have 7 board members. We would have 5 single-member districts. We would have 2 members at large. The people voted for that. That is what the people voted for. It clearly stated in that there would be the 5 districts that we have now. We have had numerous conversations with Mr. Martin, our counsel. I have asked him, were we bound by law to actually change the districts? He gave us counsel that we do not have to do that, and this continues to come up, and there is a misrepresentation. If this board wants to change the districts, it's fine with me. However, I want to make it clear to the general public out there that we are following the will of the people. We are doing what the will of the people have voted for, and until, there's been a few people speaking about changing, but I have not heard great masses of people talk about changing the districts. So, You know, that's where I'm coming from. And when I looked at it, it definitely came at a late hour, because I know the last time the census was taken, it took the county staff almost a year to come up with drawing the district lines that we have now. So it's not something that you can just say, okay, these districts look good, let's use these districts. So, you know, there's a lot of things that go into drawing up districts, just like the legislature right now. Yeah, they're having a lot of problems because, you know, the courts have gotten involved. The courts have never gotten involved in our drawing of our districts. The courts have we've always passed the smell test, so to speak. So, you know, the way it is right now, I'm confident with it. If my board wants to, you know, change the districts and start having conversations, I'm all for that. But I'm really a little upset with the fact that people stand up there and say we're not following the will of the people, because we are following the will of the people. The people voted for something. We are following exactly what the people voted for. So with that, I say good night, and everybody have a wonderful Thanksgiving.
Thank you, Ms. Dozier. Ms. Morgan.
I just want to wish everybody a wonderful Thanksgiving.
Thank you, Ms. Morgan. Ms. LaRiviere.
Well, I too want to thank you, Ms. Morgan, for your leadership this past year as chair, and for really keeping us focused. We did a lot of hard work this year, and I thank you that you saw to it that we did that. And thank you, Mr. Toiber, for coming alongside as the vice chair this past year. And I encourage you to keep on making us work hard this year. And so I want to thank you for coming on board with that. Inclusion is an interesting component to discuss. There were many schools in our district who had already been implementing inclusion and had been doing so very wisely and handling it quite well, as you said, Ms. Fisher. There were many schools that had not been proactive with following the least restrictive environment for the students. So what happened is this year is there was a sincere effort and heart in the right place with many administrators as they looked for planning to include inclusion. I would say that it would have been good if there was a little more listening to the part that had been said to them, to do so slowly, to do so purposefully. And so I believe that it's not, I would say, it's not just our teachers that need to be fully instructed regarding inclusion, so that goes well, but also our administrators as they make those decisions. And I appreciate what I'm hearing about the support. Kudos to our I can't remember the titles for what their titles are, but kudos to Dr. Spiro, Jean-Ann Vermilia, and Shanna Fletcher for what they have done in encouraging more conversations and learning among principals and finding out ways, oh, that's how you did it. Those conversations are taking place, and it's a learning curve, and I do see that many principals have needed to. They've done a rollback and they've reconsidered, but it is a process that does need to be thought through very carefully in how we're serving the needs of our students. And you never get rid of self-contained classrooms, because you need to have that available for those students who need it. And I appreciate all of our staff. We are very blessed to be in Lee County. And I heard that from our students today. And I wish all of you a blessed Thanksgiving, and that you daily, and when you wake up, I encourage you to at least be able to list in your mind the 10 things in your life that you know you can be grateful for. We have a lot to be grateful for, and we have a lot to be grateful for that we can hug on our babies. Please continue to lift up France, Paris, our people up in prayer, but also lift up even today in Yola, Nigeria, there was a suicide bomber attack. In Beirut, Lebanon, there was also a terrorist attack. It is Western civilization, we hear more about it, but we don't hear about in those civilizations that are not necessarily in the West. And as you're thankful for all the blessings that you have this Thanksgiving, please lift some of those others up in prayer.
Thank you, Ms. Rivera. Ms. Greenstein. It's on.
Oh, good evening. Hi. Okay, I would just like to say thank you for allowing me this opportunity to sit on the board. It's been an honor to listen to everyone's opinions and to hear you guys discuss all the issues and the things coming forward. It's nice to sit back and see what's going on in my school system, where I have been a student for 12 plus years. I would just like to say that I especially hear about the standardized testing. I am a big advocate for reviewing that. I hear it all the time at school from students, from teachers. It's a big deal. So thank you to the people who have stood up today in reference to that. Coming from Ida S. Baker High School, I would like to say that I'm very fortunate to attend such a wonderful school with amazing faculty and staff and a very supportive principal. Since I have this opportunity, I would like to say thank you for attending this evening and to address a few of the wonderful things going on in our school at this time. We currently won the state golf championship by a freshman female, Brittany Shin. We have achieved 2 superior and 2 excellent ratings for our marching band's assessment. We are currently preparing for the implementation of the Chromebooks that have been discussed. And our Raider team from JROTC participated in nationals last week in Georgia. And a plethora of teachers have been nominated for the Golden Apple Award. How fortunate am I to attend a school with such great teachers. Thank you for this opportunity again. Have a happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you, Shana. Shana is one of our representatives in our school board student representative committee, and she's selected to this time. I think that was the first that we've had self-promotion from a school taking the opportunity, but you know, when you have a student that's very proud of their school, you have to defer and let them give a little bit of sunshine to their school. I want to thank this board for granting me the privilege and the honor to be the school board chair for the next year. I will work very hard to support and raise up the 4 of you and serve you to the best of my ability. I look forward to Ms. Fisher helping me on that endeavor. Hopefully, when I have a agenda complete and I don't get a handoff from Dr. Atkins, we have to work a little bit on that handoff from quarterback to running back, but we'll make that happen better. But I just want to thank everybody and have a wonderful Thanksgiving, and I'll turn it over to Mr. Martin.
Yes, Mr. Torby, board members, just one brief comment to confirm what Ms. Dozier said with respect to the 2014 referendum concerning single-member districts. The resolution that the board adopted with respect to that matter and the ballot language on which the voters passed did not contain any suggestion that the school board would adopt new school board member residence areas, new districts before the 2016 election. Happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. Dr. Atkins.
Okay, thank you, board members. I have a few things to cover, and I apologize that I need to cover the number that I need to cover. But yes, first of all, there were some things that I wanted to address that actually fortunately came up in public comment, so I can kind of address public comment as I address some of the things that I want to speak to. But before I get to that, I want to thank Ms. Morgan for her services as chairman. You did an excellent job, and I greatly appreciate it. I want to congratulate Mr. Toiber on being the new chair and look forward to working this year with you in that role, and hopefully I'll be a better running back moving forward. So having said that, I do appreciate the board's time wrestling with a difficult issue with our dental RFP. You all took the time to listen to a very very detailed explanation and took the time to really dig in and discuss it. I appreciate the hard questions. I appreciate the advocacy for employees and doing what you thought was in the best interest regardless of where you wound up on the vote. So you make me better in this job by doing those type of things, so I certainly appreciate the time that you gave me in that. Now, the next thing, Mrs. Dozier had brought up a concern that came from an employee regarding pay and the calendar. And this is something that also that Mr. Castellano has brought up a little bit, probably with a little bit different bend to it, but one of the things that we're going to be doing is I'm going to go out and meet with the TALC reps. We will go through this at great length with them. We have a massive communication plan that's going to be rolled out with our new pay program so that people understand the calendar and how it works. There was a question about pay dates and when they would revolve around the holiday season. It looks like right now, tentatively, December 15th and 22nd would probably be those two pay dates in December. Having said all of that, the change that is taking place this year is going to take a massive communication effort to avoid what occurred last year. In addition to that, I think we have to also examine ways to get our employees help during that process. I've had that discussion with a number of you, and we have some solutions possibly on the table. So, because people get in trouble. One major mishap, a health issue or whatever, you can find yourself in dire straits, and it'd be nice if the district were able to provide you help. Because the reality is, many people live paycheck to paycheck. So. One of the things that we can do is help support our employees as a good employer. So we are looking at those things. I want to address student code of conduct came up today. This is also an issue I feel as I was looking at some data on high school out-of-school suspension, and it was something that was a bit alarming to me personally based on what I saw, and that's a part of the review of our strategic plan. We're looking at key performance indicators. We meet as a cabinet every week, and we're going through the KPIs for a particular focus area. So this really stood out as something we need to address. So we're working with Mark Mora and Dr. Bohatch, Student Services School Development Team, and really want to go to work on our student code of conduct and make it something that actually works. Because what I see right now, unfortunately, we see a lot of out-of-school suspension. We see ALC and come back without really addressing what is the root cause of the problem. So alternatives to suspension, working with Judge Seals on restorative justice, giving teachers and principals more tools in their toolkit, so to speak, so you can actually develop programs that work, that are actually a consequence or where a student can actually get counseling, get the help that they need. Some of the cases I dealt with in the East Zone were absolutely tragic, and I had no options as the executive director in terms of what I could do with those students. It was suspend them and for a period of time and move them to another school without addressing a root cause issue. That's just absolutely wrong. We have to do a better job. So we are certainly committed to do a better job. When I was a principal, Jerry Ware's left, but when I was a principal, Quality Life, Jerry Ware, and some of the other community agencies stepped to the plate, helped my school with creation of an alternative suspension program that worked. It reduced recidivism in the out-of-school suspension. I hardly had any out-of-school suspension. We had very few folks that came back from ALC. Mr. Daly, by the way, was a principal there who also worked collaboratively with us to help reduce the number of back and forth there. So it was a community effort that worked that I think is lost, that we've lost that today. So that is an initiative that we are moving on, and I think you'll hear more things about that soon.
Are you also addressing at the elementary level?
Yes, because as I said, in the East Zone, my biggest problem was at the elementary level. The example I just gave you.
There's no ALC.
Yeah, I mean, I'm telling you, the worst student situations that I dealt with in the East Zone was not high school, was not middle school, it was elementary school, And the tragedy there was that I had nothing to do other than a suspension and a reassignment. Nothing. We've had cases here recently where we had no options other than that type of option. We just have to do a better job. So we are committed to doing that. Mr. Getz raised a very good point around the Affordable Care Act and what you're going to do with substitutes, because remember, you're going to that 95% threshold in 2016. So you're looking at are you paying those employees benefits? We are looking at that as a district. We feel that we're going to be compliant, but some of the things that we have to do is looking at deploying long-term subs, particularly in buildings where there is a need, and that may come with benefits because they're going to be working all the time. So they're at a school working every single day. I will tell you, that at both the schools all three schools where I worked in the district, we had a substitute just about every day. I mean, really without exception. So deploying those subs out there and doing what we need to do in terms of benefits when necessary is we're going to have to provide our employees that work over the 30 hours benefits to be compliant under ACA. So we're very close. I mean, I think we're pretty much there, but we have to maintain that, or the penalty is tremendous. It's like $27 million for that penalty. So we are addressing that. Ms. Jenner, I just wanted to let you know that I did address the one issue you brought up at the one meeting. I met with the principal, I believe, today, and that should be addressed. But if you hear it isn't, please let me know, because I was assured that was taken care of. Inclusion has been a huge topic. We are addressing that now. We are deploying additional resources to schools now. Dr. Desimores has been working with Dr. Carlin, and so they've already addressed some elementary schools, as I understand, but we have more coming. Soretta Ralph has got a plan that she's working with both staff in ESE and then also in curriculum staff development to help with deploying resources where they need to be, and we hope to have that plan rolling out in the near future, hopefully right after break. So that's going to help in the short term. Long term is Mark Mora is addressing the code issue where you've got what we used to have is these codes like SB and all these, and they were last year put together under one code, and then they went out to schools. Well, some schools were well equipped, other schools were not well equipped. And so now we're scrambling to put support and training in those schools that weren't well equipped. It just was not a good model, let's just be honest. So we have to take a step back and readdress it and make sure that the schools that have these programs, if they have these students, they have the programs to support them. Because the example I gave you, I'll never forget. I lived in a school that had very little in the way of support. It was terrible, and I know the stories of what happened to those kids later on. Not that it was just that one school, but it's really not good. I mean, really bad. The Paul Lawrence Dunbar Middle School, where I was principal, excellent support at that school. Behavioral specialist who was phenomenal. Those kids were taken care of. Incredible success stories. We need that for all of our schools. So, we are stepping back on that model, and I think in the future you're going to find a lot of positive progress. It's not going to be solved overnight, but we are taking steps, because I hear this from, Mr. Regal and I have had a couple discussions about it. Mr. Castellano and Donna and a lot of teachers, we've had that same discussion. In fact, when I visited them last year, that was the major topic with our teachers. I've heard it from our principals. We had a principals meeting last week, and Shannon just point blank told me, elementary, you need to get it done. So she is working with Amy and others and putting together a pretty aggressive plan with Soretta, and I'm really confident that we'll knock that one down, but it's going to take a lot of work. Some of the issues that Ramey Hall brought up, business math, that this always frustrates me, you know, biology, business, algebra 2. You know, I think I told you I had a discussion with TJ out at Buckingham Farms, and he's telling me, you know, your kids, they can't run the cash register. You need to do something about it. And this is not just TJ talks to a lot of people in the community, business people that need our kids to run things, and you know, so those comments, you know, I mean, I think that's important. That where is the financial literacy? Where is the business math? Where is the common sense mathematics that we need? And then we have these, you know, these score sheets with multiple answers on them, you know, where we're trying to do a multiple choice response when we should be doing a short answer or a lengthy response, and not, you know, we've got to do a better job. So behavior problems keeps coming up, okay? I think I addressed that, and we will, I addressed that already, but she mentioned that in her comments. The two students that spoke, you know, Ms. Hall and Ms. Lyons, again, excellent job. I think that, you know, Ms. Hall, Reese mentioned this stuff about Algebra 2 and EEOC, so I've already talked about that. But something that's interesting, that with ALC and LAMP, we toured ALC and LAMP this week, and it's really cool to see some of the opportunities that you have over at the Fort Myers Technical College for our kids, where they can go out and get high-paying jobs, you know, $35,000, $40,000 a year if they go to that particular, you know, that particular institution in school. Last thing I just want to cover, and then I'll be quiet, and that is that we are working on improving teaching working conditions, and a lot of that stuff that I talked about goes right toward that. That music is out there to let me know it's time to get off the stage. So anyway, professional learning communities, protecting teacher planning time, working collaboratively with the teachers and the principals in terms of assessment and in terms of instruction, and building a safe and secure working environment. These are things that I've asked our professional staff, professional teachers to step up. They have stepped up. There's Dr. Spiro is working with Joe Castellano. They've got a group together that is working on improving the working conditions, starting with setting guidelines for PLCs. They've already had a meeting. They reported back to TALC bargaining. And by the way, the TALC bargaining team has said loud and clear, it's not about the money, it's about the working conditions. So do what you can to help the working conditions. So we're absolutely doing that. Okay, I've said way too much. The hour's late. I apologize to everybody. I can't hang around this evening because I am driving to Tallahassee, and I will tell them about. I will tell them what I think about testing when I meet with them. So, anyway.
And you can also tell Ms. Fitzenhagen that we support her business literacy class as long as they fund it. As long as they fund it.
Anyway. So happy Thanksgiving. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Atkins. Our next scheduled board meeting is on December 8th. There's a school board briefing at 2 p.m. as well as a school board action meeting at 6 p.m. At this point, having no other business come before this body, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Fisher, seconded by Ms. LaRiviere. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.